Okay, welcome me and my viewers for another episode of episode 7 of Health Up. Today we have a very special guest. We've actually gone global. We're going across the seas, the Pacific Ocean, all the way to the Bay, San Francisco Bay. And today we've got with us Krissy DeAngelis. So welcome, Krissy.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. And yeah, that journey across the Pacific Ocean was magical.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
delighted to have you on. You
Mm,
being a holistic health coach, we've covered a lot around physical health, and we
hmm
haven't, journeyed into that more spiritual, the soul, the heart of, who we are. And this is what we're going to explore and unravel today. So I'm really excited to have you on as, that holistic coach, that
mm,
coach that's, got yoga experience. So understand the yoga philosophy, the Eastern philosophies of yoga, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and you've even studied astrology. So, and then on the other side, you've had this career, this 10-year career in tech marketing. So
yeah.
there's obviously a lot of, I guess, more Western science, and, you've merged the two together and
Mm,
I guess, be able to bring the best of both worlds together for the individual. So that's what I really love about what you do.
mm. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. You just summarized my journey so well. I'm inspired by the way you just described my experience. And yeah, I think that what I love so much about health is that I look at health as being this holistic view of a human, and that connects our emotional body, our physical body, our mental body, and then also who and how do we want to show up in this world. So all of that is deeply interconnected, and having a background in these more esoteric philosophies mingled with more of my background in tech marketing, I think is a very unique way to land where I have landed. So I can share a little bit more about my journey getting here if you'd like.
I'd really love to hear that, because I
Sure.
love to hear how people found their calling in life, and that journey towards that, because
hmm
it's generally not a straight linear path.
It's not.
It's got these bends and crossroads and challenges along the way. And
Yeah.
so yeah, really excited. So please share with us that story. I'd love
Sure.
to hear it.
Yeah, my journey here has definitely not been a straight path. And I think I'm, like everyone else, still evolving who I am, and every day finding more about what I like and what I don't like, and starting to finesse my offering. Elizabeth Gilbert says that there are two types of people. There are hammers, so people who are born with this really clear passion. They know exactly what their life purpose is, and they just every day hammer, hammer, hammer away at that. And then there are people who are hummingbirds, and hummingbirds are the type of people that flit around from flower to flower. They pollinate this flower and that flower, and they don't really have a clear focus or a clear path. And that's me. I feel like I'm definitely a hummingbird. My journey to get to where I am now in this current moment has been very meandering. So as a young child, I was always very, very interested in health and nutrition specifically. I thought I wanted to be a nutritionist or a doctor, but I didn't really want to go to medical school. I didn't want to go down that traditional science path. I wasn't drawn to that.
Yeah.
And I found myself being really drawn to nature, really, really inspired by plants and the wisdom of the earth. And I found myself practicing yoga when I was 20, and was really interested in Eastern philosophy and the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and all of these things that as a 20-year-old, you're not typically exposed to.
Yeah.
But it lit something up inside of me that took me across the seas to Thailand
Yeah.
and India, where I spent about 2 years studying Ayurveda and yoga and all sorts of new age thought philosophy. And it was like, wow, getting this key to this new world of spirituality and wisdom beyond what I had ever came across in Ohio, where I grew up. And it felt like just something clicked inside of me, where I was so curious about expanding my consciousness and learning more about why I do the things I do, and why does this person act that way, and how can I be a better person every day and help those around me continue to evolve and expand as well. And then I thought for sure I was going to go to Ayurveda school and become an Ayurvedic doctor, and like that was going to be my path. But as you know, as these things happen, I meandered my way back to the United States and needed to make money really quickly. And I let that fear of not having enough money get in the way. And so I found myself working in tech marketing for about 8 to 10 years and learned a ton about business, learned a ton about interpersonal connections and relations in the business world, and marketing and building confidence and leading a team and speaking in front of people. And at the same time, I kept having this voice in the back of my head that was just like, you are here to do something different. Like, remember Ayurveda, remember yoga, remember all these passions that you have. You need to do that. You need to focus on this. And I also kept seeing this almost like this real need for human connection in the corporate world. It was like people came to work and they were always saying, oh, I can't wait until the weekend. Like 3 more days till Friday. And I'm like, what? You're wasting your life. Like, come on, your life is literally now. Like, why are you wishing your life away? So I started learning more about this career called coaching, because I actually got a coach for myself to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And instantly I was like, oh my gosh, I can weave together all of these travels around the world, all these multiple lineages, all the things that I'm passionate about, and create my own recipe for offering up to people what it is to really live a full, vibrant, rich life and help people step into that. So that's how I've gotten to where I am today. And as I said, I'm still learning and growing every single day, but I can confidently say that I feel like I am truly stepping into my dharma, my life's work in this moment, at least.
That's awesome. That's it's such an impressive story. And I love how, you went on a journey and you didn't know where it was going to go, but you just, really, I guess in a sense, followed your heart, or just followed, looking for that pollen like the hummingbird does, and, going from tree to tree, and eventually arrived, with your calling, and you just love what you're doing. So you found that tree that's just forever generating pollen, and you're in that space now. So it's
it's incredibly rewarding being able to help people meet themselves where they are. So we were talking earlier about this really unique time, this uncertain time that we're all living in, and some people are just loving it. They're like, yes, I get to create. Yes, I have all this time. Yes, I don't have to see people if I don't want to. And other people, if they've spent a lot of time hiding from their emotions or numbing out through alcohol or other substances, or just entertaining themselves constantly by going to parties or shopping or whatever, this can be a really confronting time for people, sitting with their emotions and like actually having to feel what it is to be themselves. And that's where I love to thrive. I love to be with people and hold a mirror and say, this is who you are. You are beautiful. You get to live the life you desire, and I can help you get there.
And that's a terrific segue introduction into what we're here to talk about today. And it's the inner critic. So it's that inner self-talk, that when you're alone, when you're isolated by yourself, the inner critic can become really loud, right? And really get on top of your world, and cause all sorts of further complications. So let's delve into the inner critic, and I think the starting point would be, what is that inner critic that is so noisy when we're by ourselves, and when we're trying to get some peace, and then we get this voice that's overwhelming, and we want to shut it down. But so please fill us in about this inner critic.
I would love to. This topic right here is truly my life's work, is the inner critic. So from a really early age, I had this voice in my head that was like, you're not good enough. Hey, like, you didn't study hard enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not. And that voice was so loud. Even as a child, I remember hearing it. And I always thought, why do I have this voice in my head? It's been described as like living with a roommate that you don't want, that's not paying rent, that's not contributing, not doing the dishes, and it's just in your head all the time, constantly.
You can't kick that roommate out.
Exactly. Like, you're stuck with that roommate. And I always thought I was the only one on this earth that had that voice. And I never wanted to talk about it because I thought there was something wrong with me, until I started doing this work and learning that we all actually have this inner critic, this negative self-talk, or this voice that is dictating everything around us all of the time. And there's a really good book on this topic by Michael A. Singer. It's called The Untethered Soul. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend it. I have all my clients read it when we start working together. And he describes it as this, just like this constant narrator. It's like you're walking down the street and you're like, oh, there's flowers, but you know, those flowers aren't as pretty as they were yesterday. Or it's like, oh, there's a car. Wow, that car is beautiful. It's way cleaner than my car.
Yeah.
I need to go. Why don't I ever clean? And then you just spiral into this nonsense land, right? So I think the thing about the inner critic is that some people describe the inner critic as this really mean, like negative boy or girl living inside of your brain that you need to destroy. And like, you just got to kill the inner critic and move forward with your higher self. And I actually don't believe that philosophy. What I believe is that the inner critic is actually there to protect us, because we've developed this voice, right? When centuries ago, I mean, when we lived in jungles and we were hunter-gatherers, we had this way of protecting ourselves from perceived danger. So it's like you had your senses on high alert. If there was a predator coming, you needed to keep yourself safe. And as we've evolved, that voice has stayed within us, and it's gotten louder due to external circumstances, societal pressure. And instead of us being able to notice that voice and discern what's true and not true, we've actually, over time, turned the dial up on that inner critic voice and turned the dial down on our truth voice. And so we've started to listen more closely to that voice of our inner negative talk. And what I really believe the work for us to do with our inner critic is to hear it and ask ourselves, like, is this true? Or is this just a story I've been programmed to believe? I believe that there's 2% truth to our inner critic. There's something there that is actually true that we need to protect ourselves from. So maybe it's not like you're the worst person in the entire world because you didn't do this project. Maybe the truth is, hey, you didn't do this project, and I think that you're not giving yourself enough time for yourself, right? There's something there to examine. And I think when we have loud inner critics, it usually comes at a time when we are about to completely dismantle our identity, or like we're about to go into the most challenging situation. And so again, that voice is there to protect us. So it's like you are moving beyond the edge of comfort, and then that voice is louder. And most people, when that voice is louder, they back away. And then we get stagnant, and then we are stuck, which is how most people end up living their lives.
And so, when you're stepping out of your comfort zone is when that voice gets so much louder and so much clearer. And that essentially is stopping the individual from growing, going beyond, and that self growth that we need to go through in order to develop and thrive in this world and to support others. We've been held back because of that inner critic, that inner voice that, as you said, there's a subtle like 2% truth to it. So in that moment, that we thinking, yes, it's time for me to step up, step out, I want to grow, I want to develop as a person. How can we, I guess, listen to the subtlety of truth and gain that wisdom, as well as being able to confidently step out? And, so it's, whether it be dampening that inner voice or raising that element of truth, and realizing that everything that the inner voice is telling me is not necessarily true. It's partly true. So just if you can provide some clarity as to how we can really step out of this comfort zone successfully, and because this inner critic seems to be holding us back.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the work. This is the work to be done. It's this constant dance between, I want to move forward, but I'm really afraid of being seen. I'm really afraid of being judged. And the person that's judging me the loudest is actually myself, which is such a crazy concept, right? At the end of the day, it's like, nobody's judging you as harshly as we are judging ourselves.
True.
So I think the first step is noticing, okay, that voice is there. I hear that voice. It's very, very loud. And then taking a step back and asking myself, what is this voice trying to show me? What is this voice actually trying to teach me? Is there anything there that needs to be learned?
Yes.
And another thing that I find to be a very helpful tool this is the tricky part, is that we often believe that voice to be true.
Okay.
Like, oh, I really want to come on this podcast, but there's a part of me that's afraid of sharing this stuff, right? And then that voice is like, oh, you don't actually know what you're talking about. Here's the thing, is that our higher self, our voice of truth, our voice of wisdom, will never say things like that to ourselves. It will never say, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you don't deserve this. Our higher self is always going to speak words of positivity, of love, of joy. So for me, that's a really clear way of knowing if my inner dialogue is coming from my inner critic,
yes,
or if it's coming from my higher self.
Yes.
And then another thing that I like to share with my clients is that when we have this perfect recipe of both fear and excitement, when that fear is present and excitement is present, that is a really clear stepping stone for us to move forward in our growth.
Okay.
Right? When fear is there and excitement is there, oftentimes our inner critic gets even louder. And that's when we need to say, okay, hey, guess what? You're not going to drive the car today. Like, my inner courage is going to drive the car instead, and I'm going to move forward regardless of what you're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And then additionally, having a crew, a council, if you will,
yes,
of people who you really trust. Like, they have your back 100%. They believe in you. Your success is their success. Going to them when you have these thoughts, when these voices are present, and having them reflect back to you, that is not the truth. That, yes, you are capable of doing this. Yes, you deserve this. Yes, you are magnificent and wonderful in all of these ways. And don't listen to this voice right now. You need to move forward. So, yeah.
That's great, because I loved how you started with, so having that self-awareness. And, as you, I think, rightly put, it's, you get to that, the set of traffic lights, and it's, currently red, saying, well, you're not ready to grow. And then, as you said, when the level of excitement rises with the rise of fear, that's when the light goes green. And, that's when we got to, go forward. I really like that, and as you said, that go with the courage side of things, which is the higher self. So rather than focusing on that, the little subtle truth that becomes really exacerbated, it's more rising above that. And so I'm really keen as to how we get to that focus of or going towards the courage. And you mentioned the council, so obviously surrounding yourself and people that have got your back, that have I guess understand your potential, and they can see your potential, and they really want you to rise to your potential. And so those cheerleaders, as you mentioned. So how do we take that stepping stone towards the voice of courage, that higher self, and away from that self-doubt and that's what I'm really
that's beautiful question. I like to speak in metaphors, so I like to be very poetic with what I share, so hopefully this will resonate. But I visualize our minds and our life like a garden.
Okay.
And inside of this garden, we have all of these seeds that are just below the surface of the soil. And some of these seeds are weeds, and some of these seeds are beautiful flowers and nourishing vegetables and fruit trees. And we can choose to water and nourish the seeds that will grow into weeds and destroy the rest of the potential in the garden. Or we can choose to nourish and water the seeds that will grow into fruits and vegetables and beautiful flowers, right? So what I'm trying to get to is that we all have the choice
Yes.
to choose our own thoughts. Our thoughts are so important. We have, I forget how it is, like some million number of thoughts a day that come into our mind. And we have this thought, and we can choose to allow our minds to go deep into this thought of negative destruction in the path of turmoil, or we can just notice that thought and let it go by, and then refocus our mind on a vision that is actually more supportive, actually more beautiful, actually more inspiring for us. But in order to get to that muscle,
Yes.
like, because it really is a muscle to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just like working out. If you want to go run a marathon and you've been spending the last months just on your sofa eating chips and ice cream, taking those first couple of steps is going to be really hard. So that is a muscle to train, choosing our thoughts. And I think it really starts with how we are watering the garden of our mind, and having things like positive mantras to start our day, starting our day looking at beautiful imagery, starting our day with a walk in nature or talking to our best friend, like really surrounding ourselves with nourishing, loving, warm, positive experiences and imagery and thoughts is an amazing place to start, to believe that we deserve to have the visions and the dreams that are coming to us, and not get seduced by that inner critic voice.
Yeah. So yeah, just as I mentioned in the previous episodes, we've been talking a lot about the physical health and exercise, and helping people during this time of isolation, or
I
being
love it.
confined. And what I love is how you've associated the mindset, the connecting with the soul, your inner voice, with similar to the physical side of things. It needs to be trained. And what I loved is how you said you can set yourself up by training yourself to move towards this visualization of what you want the world, how you want the world to be, essentially, for you,
Mm-hmm.
and how you're going to interact with that world. And so I was just, you I guess touched on the morning routine there, and I noticed on your website you had this blog about the morning routine, and so I'd love for you to share, with the viewers and listeners, this morning routine of yours, and
Mm-hmm.
how you recommend others to set up their morning routine so they can really start the day, with that positive outlook, and going towards their vision as to, and away from that negative self-talk.
Absolutely. I think morning time is so magical for really setting the tone for the rest of our day. And in this blog post that you're mentioning, I think I wrote it a couple of years ago, I was waking up at 5:30 a.m. So I just want to point out that I'm not waking up at 5:30 a.m. anymore, but there was a point in my life where I was. And in yoga philosophy, we call that time Brahma Muhurta, which is really, really potent, magical time for meditation and creation. So it's like rising above the sun is just like you just embrace all of that power of the sun rising, and it just infuses you with this force to be reckoned with. But my morning routine now has been a bit more tame, and I like to start my day with opening my eyes and really letting 3 to 5 thoughts of gratitude come into my mind. Like, wow, my eyes are open. I'm alive. I get to live another day.
Yeah.
Wow, my bed is so comfortable. I always have beautiful flowers next to my bed, so that when I open my eyes, I see flowers, I see life, I see colors and vibrancy first thing in the morning. And so I have those moments of gratitude that come in. I will make myself a cup of tea. I recently just got off of coffee and caffeine, which has been huge for me. I had been a massive coffee drinker for 10 plus years. So feeling that I don't need to be dependent on caffeine anymore to start my day has actually been quite empowering. I like to sit with my cup of tea, get my journal out, and just give myself 10, 15 minutes to dream or write about whatever might be on my mind, and sort through that before I begin my day. And then I always start with some kind of physical activity in the morning, whether that be going on a nice walk or actually getting in a good solid workout. but doing something to get my body moving so that my mind can start to wake up and move itself as well.
I
And
love
then
that.
some kind of creation after that. Once my body's been moved, I feel like I can sit and my mind is ready to begin writing or planning a workshop. Just some type of creation is really important first thing in the morning before I get tired from the day's work.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I really love how you start the day and you look at your flowers, because, you know, earlier on in our discussions, you spoke about that garden, and,
Mm.
you know, in that you've got seeds that can grow into flowers and seeds that can grow into weeds. And by you waking up in the morning and looking at your flowers and expressing those thoughts of gratitude, you're really watering those flowers to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as you said, you're setting up the life you want to live. And
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, following that, you have that, I guess, bit of time to reflect, and create, in terms of creating your day, in terms of journaling, and really putting out there as to what you want to get out of that day. And then I love how you then, you know, get into the physical activity. So you've I guess, you know, fed the mind
Mm-hmm.
positive thoughts and acts of, you know, thoughts of gratitude, appreciation, and then you nourish the body by getting out there and moving,
Mm-hmm.
and that's obviously feeding the body, and so you're doing the holistic side of things, you know, in your morning routine. So it's really nice. You know, I love
Mm-hmm.
how it's so whole,
Yeah.
and it really sets you up. You know, you get back from your activity, and then you're ready to really start the day, and you start with that point of curation, because you own
Mm-hmm.
that part of the day. There's, you know, it's later on in the day where you get intercepted with, you know, I guess, demands, you know, from, I guess, people around you, or workplace, or loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
That initial part of the day, it's all yours, and you really
Yeah,
make the most of that. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think really taking the time to be with ourselves in the morning is so important. I mean, it's truly like we are waking up from a dream state.
Yeah.
So it can be a little disorienting coming back to planet Earth. So it's like, let's be gentle with ourselves in the morning before we go out and like need to be so aggressive and tackle the day. Another thing that I do that I forgot to mention, which has been pretty pivotal in a lot of my own inner healing, is intermittent fasting. That's something that I learned from Renee, who I know you had on your podcast a couple, maybe last session was with her, or recently.
She's coming
But
up. Renee's coming up. Yeah,
oh, she's coming up.
yeah,
Love that.
Thailand opened on the 1st of June, and she was getting a lot of, you know, requests from clients
Yeah,
to get her help. And so, yeah, so she's, you know,
she's incredible.
yeah,
Everyone should work with her. But so yeah, I started doing intermittent fasting, which has been remarkably like expansive for me, to not need to feel like I need to eat first thing in the morning, but to give my body a lot of time to rest and digest all of the emotions and all of the food and all of the experiences from the day and night before I start putting more things in my body. I think we're such a consumerist society where we just like feel like we constantly need to take more supplements and more food and more experiences and more people, but we're not actually digesting any of that. So when we speak to the holistic human, it's giving ourselves enough time to digest what we're feeling, what we're eating, and setting ourselves up to be a vessel for new life to come in through us when we're ready.
fantastic. Yeah, it's creating that space, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then allowing the fulfillment of that space. So yeah, I really love how you've added that element of nutrition, you know,
Yeah.
incorporated into your holistic morning routine. It's
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's really nice to hear how, you know, how holistic you are. So, you know, then obviously you get on with your day, and then, you know, during that day we can, you know, you see media, press, and, you know, all this negativity. You know, so the media thrives on negativity, and, you know, there's an
Mm-hmm.
element of, I guess, social media, which also is feeding the negativity. You know, sharing
Mm-hmm.
posts, and, you know, that can draw our attention to how doom and gloom the world, you know, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
can be created by someone else. So
Yeah.
how do you get back to that visualization of how you want that day, and taking yourself towards that vision as opposed to being intercepted away into the negativity. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so how do you keep the momentum going is my question throughout the day.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that we need to consciously choose what we are giving our attention to.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is, oftentimes, let's just take Instagram for an example. Oftentimes we'll follow people who we find to be really inspiring and like living these really beautiful, picture perfect lives. But hello, that is such a prime, ripe, fertile ground for our inner critic to go haywire. So we see these beautiful landscapes and we see these beautiful photos, and on one hand we could be completely inspired by it and try to design our life to be like that. But on the other hand, what happens for most people is that they go to this place of not enough land. So they go to this place of lack, they go to this place of comparison, they go to this place of jealousy. And I am incredibly careful about time spent on social media. I think it's a really beautiful tool. I think it's a wonderful form of expression. I love writing posts and I love sharing beautiful photos, and I do draw a lot of inspiration from other people who are creating on that platform. But I am conscious of how much time I am spending, and I'm conscious of people that I am following, and also very conscious of my thought process and patterning that is coming up when I am scrolling, right? So more practically speaking, I like to limit myself to like maybe once a day, or sometimes I take multiple day breaks from even being on social media, because I personally don't feel like I need it. I like to go on it when I want to share something, or when I want to just catch up with what's happening with my community of people that I like to follow. So to answer your question, I think that again, it comes back to choices and really believing that we have the choice to take control of our own thoughts and the actions that come as a result of our thoughts. Okay. And to choose how we're spending our time and noticing what we're feeling when we're spending our time on this activity versus that activity.
I love it. Love that response. And I love how you brought in social media and the impacts that social media can have on us. And you also, I guess, drew that back to the that cheerleader, all the people that are really going to inspire you as opposed to not support your development. So, where you can draw that self-inspiration from it. And I also loved how you, I guess, tied it in with your garden. So, obviously, you go through that self-reflection about when you're scrolling through, is this feeding my flowers, the visualization of what I want to create in this world, or is it feeding the weeds? And, you can control that by, unfollowing or choosing who you follow. As you said, we have that element of choice, and we should act on that element of choice. And as you rightfully put, if we're then comparing ourselves to those people, and that can really, sow this, I guess, feed the weeds and allow the weeds to grow in our minds and take us away from creating our own life. And I think you rightfully put that, we are completely unique and different, and we bring different, I guess, inspiration to this world, and that's what we need to focus on, is our uniqueness that we bring, opposed to that comparison to someone else, because that's their uniqueness, and we're not the same as them. We don't have the same genetic profile. We don't have the same environmental influence that they've had. We have completely unique upbringing, completely unique, genetic profile, and as you've rightly put, is to really allow yourself to thrive by, setting up your day around that visualization of what you want to create.
Yeah. One thing I'll say on that is, I'm taking this women's leadership course right now, and we talk a lot about comparison because it comes up so regularly with a group of women. Oftentimes we fall prey to comparison, and then oftentimes on the other side of comparison is jealousy. And what we talk a lot about is that comparison in itself is not actually bad, because comparison shows us, I mean, it's literally like, okay, here's an apple. This apple's red and this apple's green. One's not better than another. It's just using our mental capacity to relate one thing to another thing. When jealousy comes on the other side of it, that's when our inner critic can really spiral out of control. So what I love to encourage myself to do when it comes to comparison is to see what I love about this person or this experience or this thing that I really want, compliment them on it, and then tell myself like, wow, I want this thing. And then it gives me a clue, it gives me a sign really that's pointing me deeper down my path. So it can actually be a really beautiful thing if we're coming at it with a conscious state of mind. If we're coming at it from an above the line place versus a below the line place.
Yeah. And you're focusing on their strength and
Exactly.
the value they're bringing to this world and making a difference.
Exactly.
Yes, and you're not allowing yourself, because you're consciously aware of what's going on in your mind because of all the practice and training you do with your mindset. That you're not allowing yourself to fall in that jealousy trap. It's more acknowledging and recognizing that strength of theirs and praising them for it and giving them encouragement and being that support for them and rising them with the sun. So
Right. Yeah, it's not easy to do. I don't want to make it sound like I like never get jealous, because I definitely have moments, but it's really helped me to notice like, wow, that person's amazing. And there's a part of me that feels like I should be doing that too, and I'm not. And when I have that, I just say, wow, you're amazing. You did such a great job on that, and really praise them and compliment them and come from a place of higher vibration energy versus like, oh, wow, they're so cool. And because they're so good, that must make me really bad. That's not true. Like, just because someone's great at something doesn't mean that we are less than. We're not good enough. We're not worthy. People can exist in this beautiful, spacious, amazing place, and we can also exist there too.
Absolutely. And I also love, Krissy, how you bring that element of humanness to everything you talk about. In a sense, you're saying that, like the morning routine. Yes, I started off at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, and wanting to beat the sun and then rise above it. However, that wasn't for you, and you recognize that's not you, and you've intertwined your morning routine around what works for you as a unique person. And so I really like, and that element of humanness, recognizing that, hey, I'm human. I do get jealous, occasionally, but hey, I've got that self-awareness. I've got the mental training to really, switch out of that, allow that thought to pass through, and with that higher self. So I really love everything that you're sharing with us today, Krissy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, that's such a great reflection for me too, because when I work with my clients, there's not a one size fits all approach to working with people, right? Like every single person is different. You understand, as being a nutritionist, we can't all eat the exact same foods. It won't work for us. I work with my clients to find out what is it that they desire for their life? What is it that's holding them back? And how can we work together to identify the action steps to move forward? Some people hate journaling. Some people are like, I'm so afraid to journal. It's just another thing on my to-do list. I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. But another person might love it. And they're like, wow, it's just like a retreat. I get to go into myself and spend all this time writing. And so it is such a reminder that, we are all incredibly different, incredibly unique. And one of the things I love about my job is helping people unearth what it is that makes them so special and so unique, and finding the medicines, I call it. We all have this medicine shelf, and there's all these different medicines inside of it that we can use to help heal ourselves and really bring out the best in what we desire.
Yeah, I love that. I love that individual approach you take, and to first of all, understanding that everyone's unique and different, and then there's not a one size fits all for that person. There's not a single medicine that you can give the world that will help them on their journey, because they're all aspiring for different outcomes anyway. Like they're all got different callings. So that I love that individualization approach you take to it. how can viewers and listeners get in touch with you? If because there's no doubt they're going to be inspired by your words, and the wisdom you've shared with us today. So, how can they get in touch with you to help them along their journey?
Sure.
Yeah, what's the best way?
So they can go to my website. It's www.KrissyDeAngelis.com. And they can also follow me on Instagram. It's the same thing, at Krissy DeAngelis, just my name. Those are the two best places to get in touch with me. And on my website, they can find my contact page if they want to reach out with an email or learn more about how I work with people to help them live their most vibrant, inspired life.
Love it, Krissy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll certainly share those, contact details in the comments or in the fields below where we post and share this. And yeah, so that people can go directly to your Instagram page or your website to get in touch with you. And yeah, certainly, at some stage down the track, I'd love to connect with you again and have you on. And
I'd love it.
Yeah, we can talk and inspire the world and help them towards their dreams or help them find their calling. So I've really enjoyed the discussion with you today, Krissy, because it's certainly been enlightening for me. It's been empowering myself to help, me develop as a person. And there's no doubt that you've inspired and helped others, that are listening and viewing this to really, understand that self-reflection is a good thing. It creates that self-awareness. With self-awareness, we can grow. We can work out whether we're at that traffic light, whether the traffic light's amber or saying it's green. And, you've really helped us, I guess, move beyond that inner critic and allowed us to recognize there's a subtle message from that and take that away from it. So not totally dismissing it, but also giving us the tools to rise above that and focus on our higher self and move towards the way we want to live this world and do greatness within the world around us. So thank you so much for inspiring us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was so wonderful meeting you and chatting with you, Anthony. You did such a great summary at the end. I'm very impressed by your memory and your brain skills. You must do a lot of meditation yourself. So wonderful. Thank you again so much. And thank you for doing this work. This takes a lot of courage to put together this show and inspire others to live in the light. And I'm just really grateful to be here and to be a part of it.
Awesome. And we're so grateful to have you on. And I'm so grateful to Renee for connecting us.
Yeah, me too. Yay, Renee. She rocks.
Renee, can't wait to have you on, Renee.
Renee.
Renee's coming up. She's in with it within the next 2 weeks. Actually, 2 weeks from today. So looking forward to it.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Awesome, Krissy. You have a wonderful day. And
you too.
Continue to do your greatness within this world. And
thank you.
I'll certainly be sharing your story and all the messages, the great messages you shared with us to the rest of the world as much as I can.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.